stop paying attention to the candle. Everything will be all right. Wow. That's a lot of nutmeg. Okay. Welcome to the Nutmeg Tavern, everyone. We are going to have a happy December episode. I'm trying to figure out what to call it.
Because it's not quite winter yet.
It's not quite winter. It's not quite Christmas. But we're getting so close. So welcome into the Nutmeg Tavern. It's nice and warm and cozy. We got the fire going, lots of candles, and everything's lit up. And Ivy did some decoration here. She had to step through the vortex. Very dangerous to go back and forth like that. But she did it. So thank you for Ivy for decorating and bringing in all the good stuff. I am your host, John Townsends. We're going to be talking about fun 18th century stuff today. On the other side of the time vortex, Ivy is on the console.
Hello.
She has her mouth full of crackers and stuff. Bear with her there. And Lauren is in the chat and helping me out.
Hello.
And there she is. She would be on this side, except I don't know, because this one's another one of those very intense. This is a new concept though. We're having fun with a new kind of idea, and that is what do specific cities look like, and kind of can we go through the art and kind of get a feel, almost listen to the city, get a feel for the 18th century and see what street life is like, envision, some of these pictures kind of moving and have fun with that. So we will have fun with that. Lauren picked Amsterdam to start off with because I don't know why.
It's because there were so many pictures. We're going to look at about 20, and there were 5 times as many we could have used. And they were all beautiful.
Yep, all wonderful. So that's where we're going to start off. A lot of nutmeg there. And but maybe we'll try to visit some other cities as we go into the future. We'll have a lot of fun with that. Wow, the response from Ryan's onion soup episode, blow the doors off of the channel. Woo, I hope you've seen it and enjoyed it. If you haven't, make sure to check that out. Ryan did an amazing job. Great recipe and a lot of fun talk. And so, we don't think about onion soup in the, normally in the context that he was, kind of grasping onto the idea of, it's kind of like that poor food. It's winter food. It's what do you cook when you don't have that much? And winter's a difficult time to have food things, and onions are one of those things you put back. So great episode, and kind of reminds me of that stale bread and a block of cheese episode that we did a couple of years ago, and that was with cheese soup. Another one of those, very very similar ideas. So a lot of fun there. We shot a couple of different episodes recently. One, I think Sunday's coming up is exciting. The cut just showed up for me to check out. I didn't have a chance to see it before the live stream here, so I'm waiting to watch that. But exciting stuff in the future. Anything I need to get to before we jump in?
We had a member chat from Maggie. Can't wait for my weekly history hour in the tavern.
History hour in the tavern. Oh, that sounds boring.
It's going to be exciting.
But we're going to have like a special contest though today.
Yes, that's true. It's going to be alternate title is The Dogs of Amsterdam.
Yes, The Dogs of Amsterdam. and so it's like we're going to figure out how many dogs there are total in all the paintings that we look at today. So that, get out your tally sheet now and start making hash marks, and we'll see who agrees with the number of the dogs that there are in the paintings. Were there any cats?
I do not remember seeing any cats, just a large ratio. And you would think
no cats
with all the boats. And yeah. I'm sure mice.
No cats, no monkeys.
They must be ratting dogs.
Yeah, I don't know. They look at several different kind of species, so we'll have fun with that. Glad to be back in the tavern during the live stream. There's Piratical Nonsense Productions. Thank you so much. Another Iron Chef chef challenge would be awesome. Yeah, it would. Who's going to be the anyway? Okay, are we ready? We good?
Yes, let's go.
Woo! Here we go. Just to give us a little bit of context, this is a pictorial map of Amsterdam during the 18th century. We can see the layout of the city. Now, the compass rose, there is a compass rose, if you can kind of see it. By the people at the bottom, there's a little pillar, and there's a compass rose. North is like, this is not, up is not north on this map. So, bear that in mind. But we have this kind of, zigzaggy outer pattern on the city. Those are a special series of canals, and there are lots of canals that run through Amsterdam. It's basically right at sea level there, and a lot of waterways, and we'll see that reflected in the paintings. This is, and these canals are a product of the prosperity of the 17th century and into the 18th century. By the time we get into like the 1770s, Amsterdam is kind of on the way downhill. After having been very, very prosperous in the 17th century. It is a city full of migrants because it had a lot of religious tolerance, and they allowed a lot of people into this area. So a lot of people kind of fled to Amsterdam during the 17th century, during the 18th century. So it's a very diverse and very interesting cosmopolitan city. And we're going to jump in. Here we go. There's jumped in slides on this, right? So Amsterdam is right there so that we can, so that they have access to having ocean-going ships that come into Amsterdam. So this is sort of where some of those ships can go. There are other canals where obviously deep vessels can't go into as we get further into the city, but this is right on the edge there where those ocean-going ships are. And we can see lots of different things going on because it's an ocean-going city and trade is like the thing for Amsterdam. What is happening here with trade and ships and moving goods in and out is very, very important to Amsterdam. You can see how kind of important it is in how nice this area is, how close ships can come up to unload, lots of different smaller and medium-sized vessels to offload goods and transport them to different parts. So like having a bunch of semi-trucks, and then you have all these smaller trucks to transport goods around. So we see a lot of that here. Let's dig in a little bit deeper. Here we can see a boat. Now, this one boat, I'm not sure exactly, what's going on here. The person in the back of this boat is probably an important person because there's a guy standing in the front with a trumpet announcing, here comes somebody. He's probably not terribly important because if he was terribly important, the boat would be bigger. There would be more people rowing. So he's probably kind of middling important or, just semi-important, but obviously important to some extent because not just everybody has a trumpeter on the front of their boat.
So somebody's wondering about the wine casks that are right there on and they're wondering if that's wine. And they kind of do look like the ones, the ones later on. Yeah,
we'll see later on. My guess is they're probably wine casks because they're on their side like that. Because we see that kind of horizontal barrel head part, which I think is fairly common on the way they keep the heads tight on wine barrels. So that's a good guess. We have the lighters, those smaller boats for transporting goods there. We see wood in the background. Wood's like really important for fires and that length of wood, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with. Maybe it gets cut up into smaller pieces for burning in houses or even in the wood stoves on board ship. We'll see right here in basically the center, we see a sledge and a horse pulling this sled with goods on it. We'll see a lot of that in these 18th century Amsterdam images. And Lauren and I were sort of battling about the concept here and the whys and wherefores. And it seems that depending on where you were at in the city and the prosperity, people wanted quieter streets and slower traffic. They didn't want people to get run over by people speeding along with wheeled carriages. And you can imagine over these very kind of large cobblestones that we see here, that the wheels going over those would probably be very loud. And in fact, the whole, it would be jolting the ride with those cobblestones. Whereas if you were pulling the sled along there, it would basically smooth out the ride. It would slow it down, and it would be a quieter kind of dragging sound instead of the rattling sound of the wheels going over that. So we've got a couple of different reasons why we're going to see a lot of sledges, which was kind of, at first took me by surprise as we were digging into this one. We do see in the lower right-hand side in the canal here, junk floating. And this is common to think of and to see in these images. There is kind of trash that floats around. The idea that the artist showed it is somewhat interesting because overall, this entire genre of art, this cityscape that is very popular here in the 18th century with the Dutch paintings, tends to show Amsterdam in its finest. We see beautiful cities, things in repair, streets that look nice. We do see diverse personages of different classes, but generally it's portrayed fairly nicely. But in this particular circumstance, they wanted to give us at least a taste of everything isn't just perfect.
And several of them you'll see, because they like to display people working, and
Yes.
they show people, they'll show rag pickers who are supposed to be going around and picking up, maybe they are doing the ground, but I think they had some cleanup for the canals as well, but there's only so much you can do.
Right. We have markets, lots of sort of outside markets going on. It doesn't really matter the city in the 18th century. That is a common aspect. We see some of the market stalls seem to be like day to day, just, pop up almost like a cart that would come along. And then you can see sort of dead center. There's a stall there that's basically right up against a very important building. It looks almost like a city building or maybe a city wall or something. And that looks like a very permanent kind of stand. The building isn't necessarily a commercial building like, oh, this is going to be a giant store. No, it's like a city building and someone kind of stuck a stall right up to the edge of the building and almost sort of built it in. We do see some stalls off to the extreme right that don't look like they're open. We've got, wait a second, hold on, wait a minute, back up. Was there a dog in this?
Yes,
Look, there's a
I
dog.
think there were 2 dogs in the last one.
Okay.
There
Yes.
are 2 dogs in this one.
Very important.
There's 2 dogs in there. I was already messing up on my job here. So dog over on extreme right, and then another dog, not quite extreme right, more in the foreground. There's probably a dog hiding in the background too.
I didn't.
I know none of us spotted him though.
Yes, he's probably in a window or something. Anyway, I love the dog in this image. We do see by the gentleman there on the right. We see kids there. Yes. What practical? No. I went to Amsterdam last November and had a wonderful time. It's a really fun city. One of the highlights is the Maritime Museum and a replica of the East India Company ship. Wow, that's piratical nonsense production. That sounds uber wonderful, and
yes,
I'm
we were
jealous.
talking before the stream about how it would be a wonderful trip. It just all around in that area just looks like just one of the nicest places to visit.
Right.
Full of Dad was looking at a video of a sawmill.
Yeah, wind-powered sawmill. Ooh. Again, jealous. Anyway, extreme left on this image, we've got somebody carrying a basket on his head, and he's got stuff under his arm and on his shoulder. He's carrying a lot of different stuff. We will see people who are people that sell things on the street, just sort of, carrying them along with them. This gentleman might be doing that. A lot of commerce going on here. It's not very, very crowded, though. It's just...
Maybe the artist only wanted to do so many.
And again, with the architecture is beautiful, and he's done a good job with the architecture. It's almost like it's two paintings in one. It's like, well, there's the people and what they're doing, and then there's the architecture. It's sort of split level. Everything under the bottom third is more about people, and the top third is about the architecture. In the street, we do see a little bit of, refuse stuff hanging around. Doesn't seem to be there. We can't tell what it is. Rocks, dirt.
It's true, they didn't clean it up too much.
Right, it is not perfect. He could have just, shown just cobblestones, but he didn't do that. I'll say this is backed out. I don't know if we're going to see that one side image, but you can see there's a dog over there. I'm sure we'll see them closer up. Just as we're backed out here for context, let's jump in. And we get to see, again, how important the waterways are to transport of goods here in Amsterdam. Now, that isn't only true in Amsterdam. Now, it's very, very true for Amsterdam, but it's also maybe to a lesser extent, but very true for other cities all around the world, whether it's London or the small waterways that are going on in places, all around Boston Harbor and other places that have rivers that run through it, whatever. We don't think about using the small waterways for commercial transport very much. Some ferries, whatnot. But this is very important to their commerce, even to the small portions of commerce. So we have somebody loading a basket onto a very shallow vessel there. Because it's a canal and it doesn't get a lot of waves, you can have a very shallow draft vessel like that to transport things. You don't have to really worry too much about being swamped. We have this little boat here that off to the right that is probably all full of something like hay, fodder for animals. Since there are a lot of animals and horses in the city, you need to be able to feed them, and you're going to feed them with something like hay. So we really don't think about hauling hay around in a city, but it can be very important. We've got these wonderful large baskets for hauling goods. We see all those odd sort of orange bottles there. We don't know who's sort of in charge of the goods, and as they're waiting to be loaded onto these boats, it's always one of those things you wonder about when you're in a setting like this. Like, okay, who put the stuff there? How do they know where it's going? Who's picking it up? We didn't get to see, but there is on that other side of this painting, we can see the dog over there. There's probably another one in there hiding. There we go. Just didn't want to miss him. This painting almost makes up for all the missing dogs earlier on, because we got, I think, did we count 5 in this one?
I think so.
There are 3 easy ones, and there's one further back, so hopefully we'll pop in and we can see more of them. This image, we actually saw another scene of this building a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the weigh house, where they weigh goods. So this is a government building. We could tell by the big shield that's on the front. It's like this is a Royal Arms right here. This is an important official building. They're doing official business in here, and this is where goods are sort of judged, their weight. They might even judge the grade of different things in a building like this, but a lot of specific commercial weighing going on. How much does this thing actually weigh? Again, one of those things we kind of take for granted, but all the things we buy are, if the can says it has 12 ounces of cranberry Jello in it, it better have 12 ounces of cranberry stuff in it. And we expect everything to be that. And we have all these very precise scales. And so basically everything is, in theory, weighs what it should. But they don't have that same kind of thing in our time period. And so we have to have official weigh stations. And we still have some of that, like where the big trucks go along the highway.
Yeah.
And, you know,
But
it's like,
I'm sure in this instance, they're coming in and they probably may have weighed it in the original country's weight system or measuring system.
that's possible too.
Right? And they come in to Amsterdam and they probably have their own regulated system.
Like, no, we're going to check it again because we're like that.
Okay,
Should we
the
jump
chat
in?
thinks
Okay,
that
we don't.
there's 6 dogs in this picture. And I believe them.
Yeah.
It looks like a picture that has 6
So
dogs.
there's one dog in the center foreground. I think if you follow him straight up, there's another one back there, right above him, basically,
Yes.
in the middle. There's the two there,
And then right behind that, the rightmost of the 2 dogs
Yeah.
is another dog sitting.
oh, and then
then-
there's a boy playing with a dog on the very right-hand side.
Really?
Yeah, in the background, there's the guy at the extreme. I'm sorry, left is the guy with the blue coat, and then it's sort of in the middle of that
Oh, is he
area.
playing with
There's
the dog? Yeah, I
yeah,
see
he's
that.
playing with the dog back there.
Okay.
Again, no cats,
That
but
means-
birds. Is
That
like
means we have 10
I did like the
dogs
birds
so
in this
far.
one.
this one actually with the birds and the dogs and the people. This is the one that I could almost just wait for a second and you can hear. You can kind of imagine the noise that you would hear or the soundscape that you would get on an image like this. Even all the boats, and those are ocean-going boats there. In the middle background and all that good stuff. So it's amazing, wonderful image. Do we give a closer one of this one? We do, don't we? Because of this is the one with that crane.
Yes,
kind
we
of a
do.
thing.
We do
Okay.
move in on the crane just a little bit. Yes.
So I don't know about dogs in this one. Again, a canal.
That's true.
I don't know. We got a lot of canal, and I think there's this. If we look in the very, very center toward the top in the clouds, there's this thing that sticks out on this building. It's like a Atlas holding up a globe. I think we'll see him in other ones. Do
I
we
may
see
have
that?
cropped him out of the
Oh,
clearest
okay.
one because he was way up high. But
Right.
for people in the chat who are more familiar with Amsterdam, they may know his name. So
Right.
they may be
So
able to tell
there
us.
is that shows up. It's like we're looking at it from different angles as we look at some of these paintings. But let's jump into this. We're trying to figure this thing out, and we looked at it for a long time and said, "What the heck is going on?" So we see the person sort of drowsing there in the boat in the center foreground, but right above him, there's this crane apparatus here. And if it didn't have the platform, I would say, okay, I know exactly what's going on here. But it does have that platform with the baskets on top of it. And it could be that it's just a little roof that is sheltering sort of the little platform down below where people sit down. And that the rest of it is a crane kind of thing. We can see a long chain that goes from the very tip top, and if you had ropes or something, you could, and it was hinged, that could go up or down. You could unload goods.
We'll see another example way later
Yeah.
on. And you definitely, though, can tell that they had, and assumedly this is one of them, they had multiple ways of
Unloading cargo. And,
that's right.
yeah.
Unloading cargo and then getting it up into the houses and
Right.
all that. They had many different systems to do that.
Yeah, and that's another point here. And Lauren was talking about, as we were discussing the content here, Amsterdam is famous for its skinny little buildings here. And the reason why they're skinny is apparently taxation. They were taxing the buildings on how wide they were. So, and not their square footage. So what they would do is make everything really skinny and then really long and really tall. And it wouldn't be taxed as much. So it would make the ways to get up and down very, very difficult. You'd have all these very narrow staircases. So they would have a ways to, if they wanted to move goods up and down in a building, they would move it up and down outside. So you would bring things into the front. So if you see right behind that crane, we can see 3 sets of doors. So there's 1 story, 2 stories with windows, and then the next story, there's this set of doors. Next story up, there's a set of doors. Then there's another set of doors. Then we can almost see there's a tiny door at the top. And many of these have a pulley at the very top, and possibly even something that sticks out so that you can move things all the way up and down on the outside and then move them in through the doors. Wow, that sounds like a lot of work to move things in and out of the buildings, but taxes, lowering your taxes will make you do just about anything, apparently.
Yes. And somebody was kind of commenting on the multi-purpose use of these houses, that they could be a shop,
yes,
warehouse, family, the place where you lived, all in one. And so they would just stacked right on top of each other.
Right. And you might have multiple floors of commerce or residential going on in there, even industrial, light industrial things going on. And even we'll see later on in some of the images, sort of almost a half basement thing going on too, where shops will be sort of at waist, at the ground, sort of halfway. It's really, really odd.
There are some very fun
as we'll get through there.
That show that.
We've got lots more of Amsterdam to go, but I want to stop for a second and talk about the YouTube members, Patreon folks, and Townsends Plus people. And here are new and renewing YouTube members: Joseph Rooney, Christina S., Macabre Man, Christopher Stowler, Derek Hewer, James Masser. I should have worked harder on this one. Tai Lun Chow, Jello, Brandon Stiver, Shelley Medford, Michael Sorelli, David Collar, obviously renewing because we've seen him around so much. Thank you, David. Don Southerton and Prince Gray the First. And then new Patreon folks, Max Gregg, Simon Sevic, and then Gregory Waldo and Daniel Marks and Kendall and Jesse Carr, and then Townsends Plus people: Samantha H., Jacob L., David H., Kurt G., Brandy B., and Michelle L. All of you, thank you so much for your amazing support. Also, we've had some wonderful super thanks on the channel recently, and of course, super chats. Thank you guys so much for that. Do we have any special questions or comments?
I don't think we have, although there was a very interesting comment earlier that they were saying that even now, if you go and look in the parks in Amsterdam, you will still find like the tobacco pipes from the 18th and 19th century.
And we'll see that later on. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think there's a super chat.
All right. I will go hunting. Go ahead, and if I find it, I'll tell you.
Okay. We'll just jump right back in. Mm-hmm. So here we go. I'll find it. There it is. Okay, now that was where we were at. We don't know where the dogs are hiding in that one, but it's probably right around the corner. Lauren picked this one out just because it was colorful and pretty. And it's fun that all these little sort of middling and small sized, but still commercial vessels are all tied up along here on this commercial canal. And we have, do we get closer in on this, or did we just see that?
We're just looking at it because it's pretty. There's not much more detail closer up.
Is there a swan boat back there?
A swan boat.
Okay, so you see the sailboat.
Uh-huh.
Now you see across from the sailboat, there's this white thing. And it's kind of big.
Well, I think it's just got white bales of like cotton or something
Maybe.
on board.
It looks like it has a neck or something. I don't know.
No, I can see it more bigger than you can, I think.
Can.
And so, unfortunately, it's not a swan boat.
That's pretty sad.
Because I would like to sail down a canal
Yeah.
as well.
I want a swan boat. We do have sort of a grocer market going on here. So we see greeneries and probably fruit and things in our background. We've got some little stalls almost looking like Punch and Judy huts in the background. A couple of different ones of those. We do see the ship with the sail up, which is a little odd. Generally, you wouldn't have your sail up because you'd be catching wind and doing crazy stuff. But maybe they thought it needed a little distraction, a little whiteness in the background. So there is that one. Well, there we go. We jumped right into this one, nice and tight. So we can see that we do have some different people here. Definitely a land or an area where we have people from all over the world. So I don't know who's right here on the left-hand side of the image. You know, I don't know, Muscovites or something. They've got long robes and beards. Definitely different than the people that are normally there. So we got lots of different kinds of people from all around the world here. And there's a street seller there. We've got more than one dog. And this is what we're talking about here with these sort of subterranean selling areas. So up against the wall, there's a little roof and another brick wall, and then we have this person that we can see that's at waist level. Now he's not like kneeling or sitting on the ground, but where he's standing is actually probably 2 or 3 feet lower. And that little door, somehow you get into that whole tiny, probably 3-foot wide shop. Through that little door, you can open up those little windows, and then you have a way of having commerce, but it takes up very little footprint, even sort of at eye level. I don't understand why you would shrink it down 3 feet when you could
There's
just...
nothing above it. Like,
Right.
It made more sense to me on the ones that had multiple stories. But
Right.
this one, I'm sure there's a reason, architecture.
Right.
But,
And we've seen some of that in an earlier paintings a couple of weeks ago with the cobbler.
Yes.
He was down in a low spot like that. It looked like he was just sort of sitting on the ground, but undoubtedly he was standing. It was just he had a lower area. Sort of like when we have the basement windows in some areas and they're in a little well. Well, he's in one of those kinds of wells at the edge of the building. We have different people, different classes also in these images. It's been a little hard to tell that in some of these early ones because we're so backed out for the cityscape and we can't kind of jump in and see the people. But here we see, there's a child over there. In fact, probably all of these people are kind of, middle or lower class. What have we got here? We've got Max Arcool with a super chat. Happy Friday to the Tavern and everyone in subterranean selling units. Yikes.
and there's a chat from Roy, who is from Amsterdam, and that he says the gate still exists.
Wow.
And it was so fun. I watched some videos of the, people, doing travelogues of
Yes.
Amsterdam. And to see Amsterdam now and see how very similar it is to these pictures, it was lovely to see that there was so much of it still there. Looking just as beautiful.
we don't have that.
Nope,
right?
we do not.
It's like the little town where we're at was settled in, the 1870s or something. And there's nothing even of that exists. Nope. Probably the building that we're in right this minute
probably
is one of the
oldest.
oldest buildings in town. Yep. And there is a little, someone sketched on the wall up high before they wallpapered this particular part of the building. Somebody did a little charcoal sketch of a horse and buggy. probably just because it was the standard thing in the street. But we can't look at something that's 18th century here and.
But it's nice to know this gate's still there.
Yes, but there in
Still
Amsterdam, it's like, oh yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's one of those 17th century things we can put on forever. Anyway, again, we get right up to the water side. We see lots of logs. So here in the waterway, the image or the video that I saw earlier was of a wind-powered sawmill. And in the 16th, 17th century, even the 18th century, trade is very, very important to the Netherlands. And the way that's done is by ships, and the ships are made of wood. And so you've got lots and lots of wood that's used for that. You're not using it for your buildings that much, because if you build buildings out of wood, they tend to burn down, which they had a lot of problems with. We'll see that later on. But the wood is incredibly important. And so we have this wood here. It looks like it might already be sawn up into planks. They're very, very regular sized. They might just be, logs that are all, sized of a very particular size to be processed, sawn up here in the background. And then we have this dock area. We have two different kinds of barrels here. Some of them are on their end, some of them are on their side. And again, I believe the ones on the side here are probably full of something like wine. Looks like we even have people testing the contents, going through the side bung to check what's going on with the barrels. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ready to use? Maybe I just bought this. I want to see if it's any good. I don't know. The goods on their end are probably something completely different. We have chickens. We have the dog in our image here. And we can even see in the background, again, they have multiple different kinds of things to help unload and load. Again, unloading and loading these boats is really important.
Were there any dogs in the last one?
Dogs in the last one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
there were two.
there were
I
two.
remember. I
Oh, there were
counted
two?
those, yes.
Oh, yeah, there is two. Dogs and chickens. I think this is the first one we've seen chickens in,
Yes, I think so.
Again, no cats. Apparently, they don't like cats in Amsterdam.
It makes me wonder, maybe, because you see them in English paintings quite a bit more frequently.
Maybe they just don't hang around in the streets here. Yeah, here's a closer up view of, we can see what's going on in the background and what's going on with their kegs. And again, the head design really says these are probably wine barrels or some other similar kind of liquid that they're dealing with in this setting. And I'm not sure how you pick these up and transport them. They're all interesting ideas. Loved this, and we'll punch in on this, but let's look at it backed out a little bit. Obviously, we do have a dog, but we have the sledge in the extreme left, pulling barrels with a little symbol on the side. Probably, tells you exactly what's in there.
We'll zoom in on it.
Yeah,
you might want to just go right ahead and zoom in.
Okay, let's zoom in. That's fine. Let's zoom in on it. There we go, like swans or something on the barrel sides. We see the ocean-going ships there with their sails up in the background. We see this building here, and it's sort of an open, and if anybody knows what this building is, you definitely chime in, tell us. It's gated, so not just anybody can walk in there. We even have the, father-daughter maybe there, and he's pointing to, what's going on with that. We have the horse and the cart and the person hauling things. Very, very common in our
He got a wheeled vehicle.
Yeah, he's got a wheeled vehicle. Maybe he's on the outskirts,
Could be he had enough weight that he kind of really needed it.
Yeah. We have the classic knife sharpener. And knife sharpeners tended to have a poor reputation. They would go around and they would be, sometimes they were very poor, and they would do lots of gossip and whatever, and maybe troublemakers, and they'd ruin your knife, or maybe not. Maybe this guy's really good. And we got people hanging around that. We got the people in the background. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. We do see, again, there's a person with a broom back there working on that larger building, keeping that clean. A boy with a hoop. And the dog's probably excited about that. And then the wheelbarrow and the very large box on top of it, military person, it looks like, with the cross belts. Somebody else hanging out with that in a very common kind of city scene. This is, again, we were talking about the commerce and how important it was. And here they are working on this ship. We can barely see the ship behind all the scaffolding and the workings on that. And they've brought it right up to the edge of the area here. In fact, it's tied off to ornamental trees, which really kind of surprised me that they would tie it off to something like that and not have bollards or something else to tie that off. It looks a little dangerous to my, hard to grow trees in the middle of the city. Does this punch in? Yeah, there we go. We see a dog and workmen there, and people working on these capstans, these sort of winches that are attached to the dock area itself. And they can use those in a lot of different ways. They could have shears or sort of, high standing, I don't know how to say it. But you could use that to do leverage, sort of like a impromptu crane, or pulling things to you, move large logs around if you needed to drag them across an area. We can see even in the background there's people pit sawing, and then we can see knees and other kinds of wood there in the background that help them build their ships. And they lived off their navy and their merchant marine, so it's extremely important to what they're doing. Got a little too much nutmeg caught in my throat.
Do you want to just switch back to you for a minute?
Yeah.
A couple.
Very on.
Okay, so there is a super chat from someone from Japan that says,
Yes.
Hi, from Japan.
Yes, and unfortunately we can't read the name, but
Right? But
thank
it's
you
got
so
a very
much.
cute little owl
Yes.
avatar. And then there is a member chat from Allie Burden.
Yes.
Loving the in-depth look. Thanks, Townsends team.
Thank you.
I had these particular pictures just really were very fun because they're so detailed.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff I do kind of day in, day out when I'm trying to do research on different things, or sometimes you just need to get the feel for something. And then it's, look at the image and try to figure out, why they're painting something like this. And then, dig into the sometimes it's just the backed out view of what's going on. And other times it's all about the minutia and the questions that you have when you look at a painting like that. It's like, well, what is this? Why is this in this painting? And then you look at other ones and they slowly help you answer that. You see the same thing, either literally or figuratively, in a different direction, and it helps you understand what's going on. You ready for me to jump back on? Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I see this, I think about how hard the work is for these guys, how all this stuff would be, mechanized today. All these machines would be metal,
And it'd still be a hard job.
right?
Even
It'd still
with
be
all the
exactly,
mechanics.
still be a hard job. But they're doing it all with wood. They're all doing it all with human power. There's not even a horse here to help them. And even on these capstans and winches, you can see how long the bars are. And you could get 20 or 30 guys around that to help you move that if it was something really, really heavy. Or in this case, they only have 2 people, but they have very long bars, so they can get a lot more leverage on it. But the bad thing is that unless it's, and many times these would have paws underneath it so that it would only go one way. So that because if you lost your footing, it would start to spin backwards, and then that would be mega dangerous.
I mean, it could kill you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
It would fly around, and drop something on somebody,
Yes.
and this thing, hits the other person and sends them flying. I mean, it's like, it'd be dangerous. Wow, that was a switch of seasons here, but we have ice skating going on, and it's very a very common and popular sport in this time period, in this area. And we see lots of people skating. We even have a dog on the ice. And we got horses pulling sleighs. And we even see one of their little drawbridges, a very small drawbridge there for smaller sailboats to go through, but probably just human powered. Somebody, pull on that, and it was counterbalanced. You pull that up, and then you could, move your small sailboat, but sailboat through that bridge area. We can almost see kind of shops. Do we have any punch in on this one? Probably not.
No, I didn't. I didn't think there'd be a ton of detail.
Right.
But there is indeed a dog.
Yeah, some of these images are a bit more, leaning toward impressionistic, so they're a little,
And they're really meant to be viewed from a distance.
Exactly.
As detailed as they are, it's...
What we're doing here is, not probably what the artist intended. It's like, why were you doing that? Don't look at my painting like that.
But they did such a good job including the details for all that. So
yeah.
I really like this particular style of art because it is filled with so many things to look at.
Yep. Very, very beautiful. Now this is a 3-panel series. This is the Amsterdam Theater in the 18th century, outside at night. And count them, I see at least 3 dogs. One could be a cat, but I don't think so. We have people waiting outside the theater. We can almost see into the theater, so theater's going on here. This is a social event, so lots of people, probably highly dressed, and maybe some pickpockets in the crowd. It's hard to say. But theater at night, all lit up. I love the way the artist has done the lighting here. The upper building is dark. Where the lights are is lit up specifically. We even have the moon kind of hanging out there in the corner, and we can kind of get a feel for this. It looks like it might even be fall or winter. People are fairly covered up. They're wearing heavy clothes, so it's probably cooler. This is the inside of the theater. Maybe the same night. Who knows?
Could be.
We see and Diderot's encyclopedia shows some amazing images of the machines of theater. Way to have backdrops and things going, having moving waves and all this good stuff. The trees could move in and out. You need to change the scene, and they would have all that sort of thing mechanized. We see all the box seats, and this is high, very expensive theater. A theater like this, of course, in the 18th century, is all lit by candles.
Yes.
You imagine? It's
a lot of candles.
Yeah. You imagine, trying to see a thing. It's all lit by candles, and you'd have to have a lot of candles, and it would probably get hot and stuffy in there with all the people, and
yes,
and it gets hot and stuffy in here, and we only have 100 candles going, but it would be a lot more in the time period, and that kind of setting is pretty dangerous, and so sometimes your theater burns down.
Yes, it does.
Do we know what year the theater burned down?
I think whatever year it is that the picture is in, because it's all.
You know what number this one is?
Okay.
Ruins of the Theater. As it appeared May 16th, 1772. Yep. So the theater burns down maybe the night of, maybe Friday night, the May 15th, or maybe they let it cool down a couple days before they jumped in there.
They might have, that's true.
It's hard to say.
I would have thought it would have retained quite a bit of heat.
So somewhere in May of 1772, the theater burns down. And of course, we saw the firefighting episode when we did here on the live stream. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those paintings were Dutch, or a lot of images were Dutch. They were very big into firefighting. They had a lot of problems with their Amsterdam burning down when it was wood. And so all the buildings we've seen here so far have been brick. Even this was brick. Of course, some of these interior things were wood. And all that scenery and, decoration all burnt up. And I don't think there are any dogs in there so much. But and we can see here that they're trying to reclaim that. Now, this was a salvage operation because there was so much gold decoration, and it melted, and
gold leaf, and you're like, well, we're going to go get that gold leaf.
All that gold leaf is in there, and so, they had to clean up, and they had, 18 people died?
Yes, 18.
Right. So some of the doors were blocked. I was panicky, and it did not happen after hours. It happened when people were in the building. So this was quite the tragedy in 1772.
And somebody was asking about the firemen. There were firemen who came to the fire, and they weren't able to stop the theater from burning down, but they tried hard to save the surrounding buildings, and I think they were able to. I think they were able to keep it from spreading.
Yeah. So pretty amazing situation here with the and the fact that we have that kind of three. I mean, they didn't do these images specifically.
No, I just ran across the.
Right. It's like, oh, look, there's the theater.
I didn't know what this one was at first until I did the translation on the title, because I kind of picked my pictures, winnowed them down, and then translated them to see if we could pick up some more detail. And I was surprised because I'd already picked the theater one.
We just kind of found that series by accident. So that was very, very interesting, and coming on to the theater like that. So here we go. We have this next image where we get to push in, which is nice. Sometimes we're backed out and we really can't see the people.
But we feel like we're right there in the street.
Right.
Wandering around.
And we've got a mix of high class and medium class here, maybe even some low class in the image. Obviously, we have the lady and gentleman here, and then the gentleman almost in the dead center with, we don't know whose dog that is.
It's someone's dog, though.
Someone's dog. Now, they're obviously well-to-do folks there. And the woman that's right behind the dog, probably someone's servant, right? Going shopping, or someone of
housekeeper,
middle class, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. The person with the barrow, he's a farmer, a grocer, whatever. So he's further on down the rung. Somebody who has to work all day, hauling around a wheelbarrow of goods, selling them from door to door. And we can tell by his clothing, his apron, he doesn't really have a coat. It's more of a sort of a workman's jacket. We have people buying from him, cooks or whatever. We even have the we can kind of see a shopping situation going on behind there, stalls, whatever, barrels, stacking up. They're even using them as a work table, the barrels with a board on top. Is she doing laundry? On the extreme left?
I did not see that mentioned in the description, and it's a little vague. I had thought she was doing some kind of
Baking?
Yeah, bread
she might
or
be.
something,
She might
but
be.
I'm not sure.
Will we see any other laundry? There is at least one. Okay.
There is.
I'll mention it.
I think there's two more. Yeah,
Right.
there's some laundry.
So we get a push in, see what's going on here a little bit more. Definitely get the feel of the people and not just the architecture. But the architecture is important and fun in here also. And that wheelbarrow is big.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not a light thing to push around all day.
Well, let's hope he's hauling something like fluffy lettuce or something.
Yes, yes. Let's go. Not root vegetables.
Yeah. Now, this is a split image. On the right is the zoom in for the person who's there, who's looking at the window and he's doing a sketch. Now, this is a self-portrait, right?
Yes. So this is Jan Stuten, something close-ish to that. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe he did any of the paintings we're looking at other than this one. But there's a Herman P. Stuten who did many of the ones that we're looking at. I don't know if they're related, but I like to imagine that they are. As artists often are. It's often something that's
family
passed
kind
down.
of a thing, yeah.
So,
this is interior of the old church. And he's, looking at this, I don't know, maybe he's looking at the chandelier. He's probably looking at the window. We see some of these, just huge, tall buildings, and And there he is, stuffing himself into the corner of the image.
But it definitely made me think about the time the artist must have spent probably outdoors doing all the prep work and sketching, and maybe even completing the pictures out on the streets to get the detail that they got.
And we're on the inside of an old church, and what is there? 2 dogs.
There they are, having fun.
2 dogs in the old church. Maybe they're to keep the rats down or something. I don't know. Do we punch in on this? Or we stay out?
I think we do, because I wanted us to be able to see the garden and the person in the upper right who's opening the door.
I don't think we do.
Window door.
Yeah, we do.
And then, but then we do.
So let me back out just for a second. To get that full context.
Yes.
So we see, this squeezed in little building here. It's odd, it's fun, it's symmetrical, and then it's not symmetrical. We were talking about that earlier, how, it's like the windows, they're almost the same, but then they're not, especially as we get down to the bottom level, which is completely not symmetrical. But we have this sort of full terraced area. That second story there is a garden there?
I think the description says a little bit about it.
Let's see. Yeah, but I'd have to read these Dutch names. I can't do it. The house in the middle was renovated in 1633 and had a roof garden and a fence at the front on the second floor. There you go.
And so the person takes the time to add that to the description. I think that it was relatively rare to have that, because it's very, and most of the houses do not have a terrace area that you'd be able to do that too.
Yeah, and it would be hard to keep it from leaking.
Yes,
right? You've got all this,
it would.
I mean, if I built it, I'd be, okay, how am I going to keep this from leaking into the first floor? And they're probably complaining even today.
Yes. So somebody has a comment here, and they're saying that clearly it's Dutch law that there has to be at least 1 dog in every single painting.
It's like, I'm sorry, there's no dog here. Okay, hold on a minute. Sketch. There he is. He's peeking out the window there. Before we jump in tight, you can see that little person on second floor. Is it a
story?
I don't know. Is it a full-size person? I don't know. It was a kid. Who could tell?
I think that they're just a regular, because the person on the terrace is about that height.
Right. Okay. And then if we look at the very top of that building, we can see the sort of beam that sticks out, probably with a pulley on it, so that somebody like that at the second floor can haul goods up and down. Let's push in now that we've talked about that. Then we can see the garden a little bit better. And I would think I would want my garden in privacy, maybe on the back side of the building, but I mean, if that's the way the building was built. We see a woman and a child. We see, and this is looks like a painting from the 1790s or so, because of the dress of the people.
I did sort these pictures by
it does say
age,
1774, which is a little odd, but that's okay.
We were wondering what it's signaling that he makes.
Well, I think it's a drum, and then the 2 on either side are actually sieves. So I think the person works with bent wood. He does bent wood hoops and the things that those are made into, like drums and like sieves, and possibly some other household goods. That's my guess. But things tend to be kind of bundled together like that. We have the person here with the horses and cart, and the person in livery. So it's somebody well-to-do that would ride in that, obviously, by the look of it. We have the woman who is selling, I don't know, is she selling like buns or little loaves of bread, or?
I'm going to go with buns. That sounds delicious.
That's what they look like to me. Yeah, I'll bet you the woman with the child over on the other side has probably got laundry in her basket. I think the dog actually has stolen a doll, because it looks like it's a doll. And so it looks like to me. And there is junk on the street again. Maybe there are leaves or something else.
Glad they added a bit of realism here.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, and there is realism in the fact that almost all of these are very mixed with a lot of different kinds of people up and down the social ladder in this kind of setting. Now this one, I mean, there is a lot of junk in this street.
Yes, and we zoom in on it. So
Okay, we just zoom in on the junk.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes,
that's
we do.
right. That's right. But before we zoom in here, as in the backed out view on the left hand side, we have the man with the shovel and flowers, maybe something like that. Some kind of plant good. Again, he's sort of like a street seller person. He's got his apron and he's walking around selling goods. We got the very well dressed man, all not military because it's green, but military-esque. Could be military. The man with the black horse. We get the wheelbarrow and the person selling things. And the carriage coming down the road with the dog in front of it. And Lauren wanted to punch in on, we're going to see, there's the people that are, there's the two military men in the blue coats. The woman who's walking away, possibly someone who's selling things from the basket. But these two, they're, does it say they're orphans?
I think it says in your notes. I believe they're from a specific...
Orphan boys from the chaplain's orphanage.
Yes.
Probably you can tell by their uniforms, sort of this black outfit. And they have a kite. So one boy has a kite and the other one has the giant roll of string. And then what Lauren really wanted to point out here was the junk on the ground. So we have sort of, I don't know, bricks or whatever. And then we have broken pipes. Lots of these long pipes are made in the time period. They're made by the bazillion. They're almost throwaway like cigarettes, you know, and you just smoke the pipe and then, you know, whatever, throw it out. They break easily, probably on purpose. I don't know. And we'll see that there are even some places, even in, in like Virginia, where they'll have whole walkways, paths that instead of using gravel, they're broken pipes.
Got to do something with them.
They're that common in our time period. This image has the ubiquitous dog. People working, even painting a house here. Now, that's kind of odd that we've got this probably a wooden building.
That's true, because they're painting it. So
Right.
I wonder how they got the special permission.
Right. Maybe because there's nothing around it.
Or maybe because of like what the use for it is.
Maybe.
Perhaps for some things, wood was maybe even necessary. But I can't imagine what it would be.
It's a good question. We have the woman on the extreme right who's likely doing laundry.
The description says that, so
Right.
I believe the description.
Now, we haven't seen a lot of it, but I mean, there are many, many images in this time period and in this genre, these cityscape images from the Dutch in this time frame. And there are a lot of women doing laundry.
Yes.
It's one of the popular topics that we'll see people doing in these, sometimes doing the laundry in the canal areas. So we see that. There's the man on the ladder who's doing the painting. The one down below is probably preparing the paint. So you kind of have to mix up your own paint.
And if there's two pictures that punch in on both of these sides of the
Okay,
picture.
let's jump in. Okay. We have the man smoking the pipe,
Yep.
which we just were talking about pipes. We'll see a lot of pipe smoking in other images. We haven't seen that much because they're all outdoor and you can't kind of see. We do have the well in the background. Now, I don't know where she's getting all that water pressure because that's a heck of a lot of water. You could fill that bucket in about...
It was making me wonder if the artist maybe is using a little hyperbole.
Yeah, I
here.
don't know. I was like, here we
That's
go.
a lot of water.
Person with a wheelbarrow in the background. We have these two people in sort of the center here. They're fixing the pavement. So they're probably taking out tiles, bricks, stone, whatever, taking out ones that are broken, putting new ones in, fixing it. We've got the dog that's there. And then the people on the other side, the woman doing the laundry, the person making the paint, person painting on our strangely wooden structure in the middle of a city. we've got, yes, oh, I thought you were giving me a hand signal there. On the right, the shop is a clock shop. And we see clocks and watches hanging from the door. And we can even see how there's a step up into this shop. There's a person there who's begging. Yeah, we can see his socks are all ripped up and he's using his hat as a please give me money kind of a thing. There's a dog right there by her. And you could see by the step up, right, that if there was a step down, you could have one of those half shops. And right across the street, we have those subterranean, in fact, two sort of subterranean shops, it looks like. One that's wooden and kind of stuck to the outside, and one that's on the other, 90 degrees off that building. And that looks like it's a greengrocer or something similar. And we don't know what that little green side shop is.
I know. I wish we could see it.
Yeah, it's
it so makes you want to walk over and
I just want to get a little bit closer. And well-to-do folks there, the woman in the golden yellow gown there, and the man in the red coat. Then just regular working class people, even poor class. So we have every strata right here in this particular image. Excuse me. Now, we still have the two slides, the two that are similar?
Yeah, this one and the next one are they're the same background, I believe.
Probably the same background and different sets of people, which is, you'll see that happen. Boys, a boy with a wallet that looks like a bag, probably has a bag similar to that on the front, so it's a giant market wallet. Boy with a hoop. We have well-to-do people, multiple sets here. We got somebody who's selling flowers on the street. We've got somebody carrying a long stick with something. He probably has some kind of a trade that he does with people. I can't quite identify it, but he's got his workman's apron. So he's one of those people that walks around, does trade. We can see the child in the almost dead center there, the little maybe girl there with a pudding cap. They had these sort of little helmets they would give little kids. If they fell down, they would bonk their head, and that way they wouldn't get hurt.
I mean, this isn't soft ground. Falling on the cobbles probably it's no fun.
Right. And there's probably a dog, you just can't see it.
Right. Now, it is true that I have cropped in on both this picture and the next one. So there could well be a dog in the larger picture. Not to, give up hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can tell it's probably the same background by looking at the very top left-hand side, and you can see the little image of a bucket up there. That's a little leather bucket picture that probably means this building is meant to be protected by such and such a fire company. That says you paid your fire company tax, likely, or something similar to that.
Yeah, I try to find someone to,
that happens in other places.
Yeah, but
I don't know if it's true.
It would be my guess.
Right. So you can see the bucket's still there. It's probably exactly the same thing. Thankfully, we have two dogs in this image to make up for the dog missing in the last one. Again, we have our waif, our beggar here on the extreme left. We have our well-to-do people. We have our green grocer cart, somebody with carrots and whatever. They're going back into the courtyard of the house there to sell their goods. More well-to-do people. The dog does look like it's got something too, I don't know what. And then, again, the person walking along with something like a shovel, waiting to do whatever job he had. You can see how similar street life is in these settings. I like the expressions. We don't usually get a lot of expressions on people, but we get some fun expression here. That's a giant lemon.
It's huge.
That is a giant lemon, and I wouldn't look at him askance, unless maybe he's like, that can't be a real lemon, buddy.
Maybe. Okay, so one of the things I was thinking about today about this was that, people do ask about lemons all the time, and where people were getting them.
Yeah.
And this, I was thinking particularly here you are in a port city, which means that maybe in the countryside you couldn't get a lemon all year round, or as easily. But here you are in Amsterdam, and you would just have such fun access to all the spices and, you know, the produce that came in.
Well, I mean, was it Boston that had the whole like lemon
Yes,
guild?
that's
I mean,
right.
It's just people that sold lemons. So, you know, but this person's looking very askance at this ragamuffin seller of lemons. He's got, you know, baggy hose. Maybe they're not. There's some socks basically in the time period were not stretchy at all, so they would have this kind of look to them, or maybe they're just all worn out. But he's looking a little rough.
And he looks like he did not shave this morning, which is very unusual.
Yeah, well, because there's a lot of diverse ethnicities here, he may be, who knows? So we don't can't guess about that exactly. Again, with the expressions, as we get close into some of these images, this one's probably a little bit later on, and the artwork changes a little bit. We have, of course, I don't know what kind of lion dog thing that is.
It's true. He looks like maybe the groomer
It's like,
gave a little
let's
bit
make
more of a
this
haircut
dog
than
look
normal.
as mean as it really is. I don't know. But we have people cleaning up, and all what's on the ground there are their broken shards of pottery. And pottery for domestic cooking in the time period was throwaway. It was a lot like Tupperware or something, or even just like to-go bags, right? Sometimes you would have even cooking vessels that really weren't meant to be used very many times before the heat would cause them to break and bust into whatever pieces. So you'd have a lot of broken pottery, and apparently in this setting, somebody's got to come along and get all this kind of refuse that couldn't be taken away and used in any other way. Although even this pottery could be broken up into small pieces and then used as grog in other pottery, and it would make it a better, the body of the pottery better. So even that is a useful thing.
Like when you have worn out clothes and they
Right.
take it and make it
Right.
away
So,
and use
yeah.
it for paper. Or...
Use the rags for paper, use rags for whatever. Even in this case, broken pottery. Yep, that's useful. I can do something with that.
I do have a couple of super chats.
Okay,
Okay. So the first one's from Speed and Style Tony. Got my
I'm frozen.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Hold on.
It looks up.
Are we all right?
Okay, good.
I pressed the button and bad things happen.
It's buffering right now. But okay, I think it.
Are we good?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about the glitch there, guys.
The first one's from Speed and Style Tony. Got my Black Friday items the other day. Presents for several, plus a thing or two for me.
Oh, wonderful.
I hope you enjoyed them. And I'm glad they arrived. Some of our Black Friday packages got
Shipping.
a little slowed in the mail.
Yeah.
They'll get there, just a little slow. And then the next one's from Clay 1988. I'm Dutch and just saw a stream. Townsends never fails.
Yay!
Hope you enjoyed. Okay.
Was that it?
Yes.
Okay, we're back in. Because we got some more to go, right? There's a few more. I don't know where we're at here. Lauren really picked them out today.
I did have quite the range. I think we should be getting close-ish.
Just a minute. I can check. We're 36 out of 43.
Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Notice the guys here on the other side who aren't working, but they're drinking. They're supposed to be working.
They should be working.
They look happy that they're not working. The guy who's working doesn't look. He's getting yelled at. Maybe she's mad that all three of them are not working.
Maybe.
Now, this art is very reminiscent of Rollinson as we get into the late 18th century.
If you look at the picture, at the description, it's by someone after a Rollinson, not the regular Rollinson,
really?
but a Rollinson, like maybe a relative of his.
Interesting.
I thought so, but that rounded style, very
Right.
Rollinson-esque.
I don't have up to 43
Uh-oh.
here. It's all right. It's all right. Anyway, we've got a lot of waterborne commerce here. It kind of focuses on that, so we can really see. There's like on the extreme left, the people in the boat sitting at a table like they're playing cards. They're not playing cards, but like they're playing cards. All these are meant to be little road vessels. They don't have masts, but lots of different baskets and things going on. We don't know, maybe fish or the other kinds of goods coming in from The outer areas with, a big city like this has got lots of different produce and groceries that have to come in from the outer areas to feed all the people in the city. And so this is one of those areas where the goods come in. So we do have some of the larger vessels in the background, but all these are smaller vessels for moving things in and out. And stalls here in the middle background, and then the city as it extends into it. And again, this is sort of one of those half and half images of half cityscape and then the lower half, almost like it was plugged on to the teeming mass of people. And
the artist may well have done them kind of at two separate times.
Yeah, it could be.
Cityscape down and then done the hustle and bustle.
And it's like, and unfortunately, maybe the artist wasn't good with making dogs, because I haven't found any in this particular.
It's true. I was disappointed.
So maybe we could draw one in.
That's right. We just do a little.
Yeah, we'll put like a dog sticker in there. This was a fawn image. We'll punch in on this one, but here's the larger context. The canal, the trees, the street, and the buildings on the one side. Here's the canal side, and we have somebody down in the boat ready to haul goods. Well-to-do gentleman talking to boys with a dog. People, kind of parading in the background. These boys hauling a box with a rope, and the box looks like it's awful heavy. They're probably from the little school next door that we'll talk about. There's the man with the rope and a stick pole hook thing there, and the boy with the basket and a dog. We have this larger sledge in the background that's meant to haul people. That's like a carriage on sleds instead of on wheels. I never really seen much of this.
Yes, and there was a journal kind of entry that was a description of a traveler from the time period, and they were writing about them, and they'd drawn a little sketch, and they were describing it and talking about how fast it could go, and they're like, well, it can fit 4 people, but not comfortably. So they were, kind of talking through it, because for him, at least, that traveler, it was an unusual design. So not right. Something they had where he was from.
Right. So it is sort of particular to this area and situation. Here's the other side of the street, and we see this doorway that's going on, and the children in the background. We see well-to-do family and a child there. Somebody on the right-hand side that's smoking. We haven't seen that too many of that, but that's really, really common. And then the women there, somebody with a couple of baskets and a yoke, and people looking in through the door. So do we see any further? Do we see up higher?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is up higher. And what this was a school for boys to learn about being a sailor. Mm-hmm. And this mast wasn't on a ship. It was probably just fixed into the courtyard. And they would be able to climb up and down and learn how to work with the sails and the ropes and do all the jobs that they would have to be as a sailor. Now, most boys like this in that time period, they would learn those things on board ship. You would just sign them up and, they're going to learn, sink or swim, off you go, right? But in this case, maybe this is for future officers. It's hard to say. I don't know more about that.
I think it's a great idea to give them some practice.
Yeah, give them some practice. The kids, many, even men of war, had a lot of boys on board to do small jobs and to learn to be sailors in the future. And even those boys that were probably pulling that box along on the street were probably the school. It's like, go out there and pull that thing around and learn about how to work with other people and how much work it takes to move, how heavy a thing. That's just something that you would learn. Very fascinating to me that they would have a school for this. We kind of seen markets here. This is from a different sort of vantage point, but we see somebody who's selling maybe garden plants or house plants even. They're in pots, in baskets. waiting to be sold. Ivy's perked up. She's like, ooh, wow, maybe I
garden.
could get something like that. We have people with baskets, and again, we have kind of well-to-do people and then the working people here mixed in this, and it probably was one of those, you have different kinds of markets in different areas of the city. So you go to some places like, this is the area where the butchers are. Well, this is the area where the people with plants are. Is this?
This is the last one.
This is the last one. We get a little bit, you can tell, the image gets a little bit more impressionistic here, a little fuzzier, but we can see the canal, we can see, look, you got your ducks there, your geese or swans. We've got dogs. We've got the wheeled vehicles going on. We don't see too many. Is there a sledge vehicle there? I see some kind of a horse thing, and I don't know what it's pulling. But we can kind of see a little bit later. This looks like it's more Regency period, 1810 or something like that.
This is 1803, I think. The last one was 1813, if I remember correctly. And in the center there, where that little archway is, that's a Latin school. And you probably haven't seen it a lot, but if you look at the skyline there, you can see the chimneys doing this weird Y thing, probably to get a proper draft on those, my guess. But a lot of these we have to crop down to 16 by 9, make them, wide instead of tall. A lot of them are very tall images, and you could see a lot of the skyline and chimneys doing this. They would get very kind of going up at weird angles and looking crazy. Probably again to get a good draft on them. If you have two, that's true. That's very important to have a good
two come up
draft
side by side, they could interfere with each other, or one could pull the smoke down into the other one. So you kind of have to separate them so that the smoke does the right thing. Let me tell you, smoke is not easy to deal with. We can even see at the top left, the woman kind of, sticking out. I think it's a woman, coming out of the window, and right above her head is one of those pulleys that you would use to pull things up to the 14th floor there. Okay, it's just the 3rd floor, but
yes. And on the left here is that close up by the boats is that crane.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure what to call it.
Right,
and it looks a little different here, and you're like, I'm sure this has a distinct purpose.
Yeah, it is a spar that's counterweighted, so that you can use it like a crane. So it's chained in the middle. That would work as a hinge, and you can see the one man pulling on one end of it. It's probably got a big stone or a weight on it, and then you could lift up goods out of the boats and put it onto the quay there. And we do have a laundry going on there in this sort of the right-hand side. There's a woman who's leaning way down. There's a basket beside her with laundry. This is, again, a fairly busy scene. Lots of things going on in the city at this time period. And this is, again, sort of the low point for Amsterdam here in this time period. It starts to actually, get better in a little bit later in the 19th century. But
it still is very bustling.
It still looks beautiful and amazing.
Yep.
We don't even see, much junk floating around in the river, so pretty amazing.
We do have our dog count, and it comes in with 3 different people as 35, so I believe them.
I have 35 too.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad you kept track.
I think everyone's got 35.
That's the most dogs we've ever had in the Nutmeg Tavern all at once.
Should have brought Sophie in. She could have kept them company.
Sophie.
She would have loved it.
It's been wonderful. Do we have any last things we need to get to?
I think we're all caught up.
I'm excited about having spent some time in Amsterdam in the tavern today. So much to learn as we dig in, and kind of, especially when you narrow down and look at a bunch of images of basically the same thing, right? Street life, cityscapes of particular, Amsterdam in particular. We can see the things that are similar. They weren't all the same artist, which is kind of important because you want to, this one artist might show you things over and over again that aren't necessarily common. They just like to show. So we get to see it kind of from some different perspectives. So it's been a lot of fun. Super thank you to everyone who's been counting the dogs, because we needed that.
Yes.
And I mean, as we were going through the images, like, there's another 30 dogs. What is going on? It has been a great time. Thank you so much for being in the chat and chiming in on those. Thank you for the super chats. Again, Patreon, Townsends Plus, people who are interested in merch and buy things for Christmas presents for people. So, whenever you do that, thank you so much. Your support is much appreciated and helps us do what we do over and over again. I don't know. It's like, I just hang out here in the tavern. Why not? So thank you so much for being in the tavern today. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Ivy. And thank you for watching today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.